When you hear about India's startup scene, it's so easy to just think about the big headlines, the billion-dollar unicorns and the buzzing tech hubs. But the real story, the one that's actually reshaping the country, is happening way beyond the boardrooms. It's a story about innovation tackling some of India's oldest challenges. And it all starts with a number that is just, well, it's staggering. Okay, so let's just try to wrap our heads around the scale we're talking about. As of late 2024, India has over 157,000 government-recognized startups. No, that's not a typo. We're talking about a massive nationwide wave of entrepreneurship. And the growth? It has been absolutely explosive. I mean, just look at this chart. We've gone from about 800 startups back in 2016 to where we are today. It's this incredible momentum that has put India on the map as home to the world's third largest startup ecosystem. All right, so here's what we're going to cover in this explainer. We'll start with the big picture of this revolution. Then we'll see how startups are breaking out of the big cities. We'll dive deep into how tech is changing everything in agriculture and in our classrooms. We'll also explore the rise of companies doing good while doing well. And finally, we'll take a peek at what the next chapter holds. Okay, so let's get right to the heart of this transformation. This isn't just a story about Bangalore or Delhi anymore. The startup movement is going local. It's spreading out, tackling some really foundational challenges. And the data behind this shift is just fascinating.
And this really shows you where it's all happening. Over half, yep, more than 51% of these new companies are popping up in smaller Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, not the major tech hubs. Now, why does that matter so much? Well, it means that innovation, problem solving, and, crucially, job creation are reaching the very parts of the country that need them most.
And speaking of making a difference where it counts, there is no better place to look than agriculture. Let's dive into how this new wave of tech is literally getting its hands dirty and completely changing India's oldest and most vital industry. Just think about this for a second. Nearly half of India's entire population depends on agriculture for their livelihood. This isn't just another industry, it's the absolute backbone of the rural economy. So the big question is, how can a tech startup actually help a farmer on the ground? And this table, it breaks down the answer perfectly. We're seeing startups jump into every single part of the farming process. You've got companies like Fasol using really smart precision tech to help farmers boost their yield with less water. Then you have NinjaCart, which is totally shaking up the supply chain, cutting waste and making sure farmers get a much better price. It's a full-stack revolution for sure. And the growth in this space? It's just off the charts. Back in 2016, there were less than 200 of these agri-startups. Fast forward to 2024, and that number has skyrocketed to over 3,200. This isn't some niche trend. It's a full-blown movement, attracting serious talent and investment to solve real-world problems. Now, that same energy, that same drive to solve big problems, it's also completely overhauling the classroom. Spurred on by new national policies, edtech startups are reimagining how we learn, from the first day of kindergarten all the way to picking up new skills for your career. And believe me, it is so much more than just putting classes online. Just look at the different pieces here. You have personalized learning platforms that actually adapt to each student's unique pace. You've got gamification, which makes tough subjects way more fun and engaging. And so importantly, these tools are also empowering our teachers, giving them better resources to manage their classrooms. And you have to understand, this isn't happening in a vacuum. It ties directly into a much bigger national vision. The whole point of the National Education Policy is to shift the entire mindset away from how do I get a job to how do I create jobs. It's about building a whole new generation of innovators. And that idea of creating opportunities leads us perfectly into our next topic, the incredible rise of the social enterprise. These are startups that are masterfully blending a solid business model with a core mission to solve some of our deepest societal challenges. And really, the contrast on this slide says it all. On one hand, you have that world of rockets and sky-high valuations. But on the other, you have something just as powerful, where success isn't measured in dollars, but in empowered communities and improved livelihoods. It's proving you really can do well by doing good. A fantastic example of this is Barefoot College. They were founded way back in 1972, a true pioneer. Think about what they do. They train women from rural villages, often with very little formal education, to become solar engineers, teachers, and even dentists. And they've scaled this incredible model to 96 countries, proving that grassroots social change can have a massive global reach. So, you might be wondering, how do these rural and social ventures even get off the ground? Well, a whole support system is popping up. It's kind of like a funding ladder, right? It might start with seed money from a government mission, then move on to getting help with bank loans backed by self-help groups. And eventually, the most successful ones can attract major venture capital from investors who want to scale that impact. And we're not just talking about one or two sectors here. The scope is huge. Beyond farming and education, social enterprises are tackling everything. You've got innovators like Recircle, who are transforming waste into a resource, and Hasiru Dala Innovations, which is creating dignified jobs for waste pickers. They're literally turning problems into opportunities.
So what does this all add up to? When you start to connect all these threads, the move out of the cities, the focus on agriculture, education, social impact, what you start to see is a blueprint for a totally new kind of future for India, one that's way more inclusive.
This slide just captures that shift perfectly. We're moving away from an old, top-down model of development to one that's powered by entrepreneurship from the ground up. The focus is shifting from just solving urban problems to tackling the really big foundational challenges for everyone. And maybe most importantly, we're seeing a move from a culture of seeking jobs to one of creating them. And all of this, every single bit of it, is fueling the national ambition of Viksit Bharat. That's the vision of a developed India by 2047. And let's be clear, it's these innovators, these entrepreneurs on the ground who are the engine making that happen. So this really just leaves us with one big thought to chew on. As this incredible revolution continues to spread, moving from the cities to the villages, driven by local talent solving local problems, the potential feels absolutely limitless. So you have to wonder, what massive, foundational challenge is it going to solve next?